Number 49 is called Santa Sabina. This is located in Rome, Italy, and this is considered late antique Europe, or you can call it early Christian art. The years are 422 to 432 Common Era, and this is made of brick and stone with a wooden roof. And that's the exterior materials. It doesn't talk about the interior materials here, which is a lot of marble. All right, so I have this cover page for you, and we're going to talk about on the bottom there what is highlighted. So before this, we had the Catacomb of Priscilla, and that is where Romans are making Christian art, but they're still being persecuted at this time for being Christian. So now what's happening is Constantine the Great, the Roman emperor, who finally legalizes Christianity with the Edict of Milan. He is not thought to have ever adopted Christianity as his own faith at any point in his life, but he wants to appease his Christian people. So he begins the construction of Christian churches that is based around the plan of the civic basilicas built by the Roman emperors of the past. And we're going to talk about the Basilica Oppia, compare these two together. So in your notes, I want you to write that he made Christianity the new official religion of the empire. He's the one. All right, and then I have this Khan Academy article printed for you guys. So I want you guys to read this, and I want you to highlight what was chosen as a space, even though I already told you, for Christians and why. So why was this a good choice? Why did they make this decision? There's a reason. Also, there's going to be some words that we're unfamiliar with. There's one that always gets me every time. So circle words we don't know. We can talk about it in class. So go ahead and read this. The word that always gets me is liturgy. So I always have to go back to that word. It just means practices, worship, rituals. You can just think about those words. So pause it if you need to use this to read it. Okay, so what you got out of this article is going to be the context for your notes. So we should now know, why were the civic buildings a good choice for Christian places of worship? And it's because of this, right? I'm giving you the answer. So a previous function of Roman basilicas was they acted as a law court, like the Basilica Oppia. This correlates with the Christian belief in the concept of the Last Judgment. The Last Judgment is the judgment of humankind that takes place at the end of the world. All right, so this is another College Board skill where they want you to compare works of art together. College Board skill 3. So we're going to, in class, describe the similarities and the differences in 2 or more works of art using art history vocabulary. So we're going to practice this skill using this Santa Sabina, and you guys just reviewed over your vocabulary when you read that article, and you're going to compare this to the Roman Basilica Oppia. So take some time, write down what vocabulary words can we use that describe differences between these two or similarities between these two. What do they both have in common? How are they different? Pause, and then I'm going to keep going and give you the answer. All right, so we have the side aisles in Santa Sabina, where in the Basilica Oppia, those were called double colonnaded aisles. In Basilica Oppia, you had 2 apses. Now in Santa Sabina, there's a reason we only have 1 apse. That is where the architect wants you to focus your attention down at the altar where the apse is. So there's a function, a reason for that. They both have a nave. A nave is the central part of a church intended to accommodate congregation. That's where everybody congregates, right? But not everybody. Who has the privilege of being in the nave? Take a guess. Probably guessed correct. The men stood in the nave, and then the women would be in the side aisles. There's 3 different formations or plans that are associated with Christian architecture. So ours that we're studying right now, Santa Sabina, is longitudinal or axial. We can use those 2 different words. So the plan is organized along a longitudinal axis, right? It's this middle one right here. And the purpose is to focus the viewer's attention down the nave to the altar in the apse. That is the function. All right, now let's look at the interior, right? You have the Basilica Oppia on the bottom right, and then you have the Santa Sabina on the top left. So again, think about vocabulary. What similarities do you see? What are differences? And here we go. Ooh, what is that? Do you guys remember? If you think back to the Colosseum, what is it called when you have repeating arches? Same thing with Trajan's markets. You have repeating arches. So that is your arcade. But where is the arcade located? What is that? That's a nave arcade. So columns support the round arches, creating a nave arcade. What else do you see? You're correct. There's the clear story windows. So remember, those aren't functional to stand and look outside the windows. They're functional to allow light to come in. We first see these in Egypt with the Temple of Amun-Re in Karnak. And that's a view from the outside. Okay, so how did the function of Santa Sabina help shape the creation of Santa Sabina? So we're going to think about that question as we talk about the form, how they made this. So the exterior, if you look at this picture on the right that I'm covering, it's plain brick. And then the interior is lavishly decorated with marble. So why? Think about the function, the purpose of Christianity that helped the architects and the artists make these decisions. So this reflects the Christian belief that the human soul, your inside, the interior, is more important than the exterior. If you think about why Polykleitos made Doryphorus so beautiful, that Greek concept of Kaligathia, that opposes this idea, right? Kaligathia was the more beautiful you are portrayed on the outside, that means the more beautiful of a person that you are. So everybody looked ideal and gorgeous and naked. So this is a totally different idea. Spolia. All right, hang on. We're going to watch a little bit of this Khan Academy article. Not article, video.
Flat ceiling above the nave with enormous wooden beams that help to support it. It has a pitched roof above that. But one of the most distinctive features of this church is the glorious columns that line either side of the nave. This is spolia. These are columns that were reused from a pagan building and here have been repurposed in this Christian context.
And these columns carry a nave arcade of arches.
In the spectrals of the arches facing the nave are images created out of inlaid stone that show a chalice and bread plates. And so repeatedly down the length of the nave, we have a reference to the Eucharist.
And we see that also in the apse. The Eucharist or Holy Communion is part of the Christian liturgy where the priest enacts the sacrifice and resurrection of Christ by offering the bread and the wine, which are miraculously the body and blood of Christ.
This building type will go on to be a source for the architecture of Christian churches throughout the rest of history.
Although mostly with a transept, which comes to signify the cross that Christ was crucified on. Between the nave arcade and the clear story, we have a wall that in most early Christian churches would have contained decoration, fresco or mosaic, like in the Church of Sant'Apollinare Nuovo in Ravenna. But here those decorations are gone.
One of the other most appealing features of this church is the screen, which separates the sanctuary from the nave. It is elaborately carved. So Santa Sabina gives us a sense of what the earliest Christian buildings looked like as it looks back to the pagan tradition. But at the same time, it also sets up the form that so many Christian churches after will follow.
Like so many churches in Rome, over the centuries, the space has been transformed. There are 2 Baroque chapels that have been added, but so much remains of Santa Sabina's original form that we really do get to be transported back in time to the 5th century.
So based on that video, what did they talk about was the spolia from Santa Sabina. So they talked about the glorious columns that line either side of the nave. Those columns were reused from a Roman pagan building. So it's an example of recycling in architecture where you basically come in, you conquer. So one religion, the pagan religions have been conquered, right? Those are gone, but they're taking those elements and reusing them from another purpose. All right, so for context, what we're going to write down, basilica in Christian architecture is an axial planned church with a long nave, side aisles, and an apse for the altar. Santa Sabina was a government building that was modified to then fit the needs of Christian rituals. Oh yeah, we're going to sing about it. Okay, the only way we're going to remember all of the architecture and all of these ideas is to sing about it. So this is a song that is created about Christian architecture, and we're going to add to this with each new piece of architecture. All right, so this is going to go to the tune of Mary Had a Little Lamb. So, yeah, you got that. Okay, so it goes, Santa Sabina is based on Roman basilicas like Basilica Olbia. I cannot sing. Santa Sabina is based on Roman basilicas. Santa Sabina is longitudinal, focusing down the nave towards the apse, while San Vitale is octagonal with an ambulatory. And that is where we are going next, San Vitale in Ravenna, Italy. All right, I'll see you guys there.